Hi, parents. I don't know if you know who I am. If you don't, I'm Mrs. Barringer, and I'm a reading specialist. And here at Meridian, I am the literacy interventionist. So I work with students on building reading skills and talk to teachers a lot about things that they can do in their classroom. What I will be doing each week is creating a quick little video for you about our new word work that we're doing in classrooms to give you a little background about skills and give you something that perhaps you can work on at home. If you ever have questions about anything literacy related, I'm happy to talk to you about those. You can email me or call, and I am happy to set up a time to talk to you. So to start out this week, I want to tell you a little bit of background. So Michigan legislation is really going towards more specific instruction for students that help them learn the sounds and letter patterns that are found in words. To help us prepare for that and to help our students at Meridian, we are doing a book study here to build our own teacher knowledge of reading skills as a staff. And that book is called Uncovering the Logic of English by Denise Edie or ID. And it's a common sense approach to reading, spelling, and literacy. Now, you can see that I have tabbed mine. I love this book. It was part of an assignment for me from a dyslexia certification program that I went through. So there's a lot of great information for teachers in this book. It's not a student book, it's an adult book, just so you know that. We're not giving this to kids, we're not reading it with the kids. The premise of this book is that we're told all along that learning to read is so difficult because the English language doesn't follow rules. But in fact, through this book, we find out that there are rules in English. And the more that we can teach students the rules that apply to letters and word patterns, the better that they can apply that to reading and writing. So that's why we're doing this book study and where a lot of our word work information is coming from. Human brains are not inherently set up to quote unquote read. Other animals can't read because their brains aren't set up for it either. It's a human human invention. Like other animals, our brains really are set up for communication and language processing. In animals, it's like they're processing what those sounds mean, the communication patterns mean. We don't have to do that as much, but we do have a part of our brain that does process that kind of information. Babies don't have to learn how to cry to communicate. That is something they naturally do. That's part of that communication process, right? So we have parts of the brain that are automatically set up to encode speech, to think about speech, to process what that means. But reading is a human invention, and so it requires coding by the brain, like brain processes to make it work because we're not naturally set up that way. And those codes are used in both reading and writing. And for some of us as adults, we can remember that it was easier for us to pick up those patterns. And for some of us, it was harder to pick up those codes and know those skills. So that is why we're really breaking it down to help those brain connections to be made in our students so that they can apply it themselves out in the real world. So our first focus for word work study over this coming week and the following week are really foundational skills. And these skills are important for building blocks of not only for reading, but also for writing and spelling correctly. Those processes work together and kind of cross the brain, use both sides of the brain in order for it to work. Students who are good decoders need to access the other part of their brain in order to be good spellers and writers of words. So while students may be able to read the words, when you ask the student to write the word, they might have difficulty because they're not transferring that information. This is because their brain learned the code for reading the sounds, but not for writing them. So it's a visual process instead of an auditory process. So going back to practice foundational skills of listening to sounds and recording them will help the brain to create that code. We want to build that code for everybody. It may seem like something your child doesn't need, but teaching it to all students ensures that everyone gets the same beginning instruction. In reading small groups, in your child's class, these skills can be differentiated more readily. Your child will be practicing sounds during this work. differentiating between mouth movements for consonants and vowels, and learning about phonograms this coming week. Phonograms is a word that comes from two different Greek words, phono, which means sound, and graph, meaning picture. Phonograms can be individual letters, but not necessarily only individual letters. It could be groups of letters that make a sound. So for example, like OU is a phonogram that sticks together and not separately O and U, because then we're saying different sounds for those two separate letters. In order to be able to accurately record the spelling of words, students must understand which phonograms make which sounds. And that is a lot of what our word work focus this year is going to be, learning about phonogram patterns that make multiple sounds, because that's where our students are. So every video I'm going to also give you a little helpful hint for at home. So it will normally be to go with the lessons that the teachers are going to be teaching. For right now, when your child is reading at home, pay attention a little bit more to some of the more advanced words. Our students are doing sight words regularly, right? They can read lots of words by sight. And by the way, sight words are any word that your child can read by sight. It could be a short word, it could be a long word. As adults, we have thousands of sight words that are words that we've learned to read by sight. So when they get to a more difficult word and they're reading at home, can they read the word? Do they know how to sound out all of the sounds and read the word? My other question then is, so if you take that word out of the book and ask them to write it, can they spell it without going back to the text? Because if they can't, that is what we're working on. We're working on the strategies to be able to write the words that they can already read. So pay attention to your child reading this week and see what words you think they should be able to spell and shouldn't, and then kind of test it out and see. Kind of practice some of those words at home. Mostly get them reading again and get back into that pattern. And as we work on the word work, I'll give you some other helpful hints that will go with other things that we're talking about. If you want a great read, if you're a literacy nerd like myself, you might want to check this book out. I don't expect most of you are going to be doing that, but just in case, I do recommend it. Thank you.